Over the last couple of episodes, we've been exploring some powerful truths. In episode 10, we talked about self doubt and how the moment you stop doubting yourself is the moment you begin reconnecting with your power. Then in episode 11, we explored the idea that nobody is coming to hand you permission to become who you were meant to be. That confidence grows when we stop waiting for approval and start trusting ourselves enough to take action. As I was reflecting on those conversations, I realized there was another piece we needed to talk about. Because every time we ignore our truth, silence our voice, or put everyone's needs before our own, something else begins to happen. We slowly lose connection with ourselves, our dreams, our voice, our identity, and the things that make us who we are. Often we don't even realize this is happening as it doesn't take place in one dramatic moment. It happens through hundreds of tiny moments where we choose comfort, approval, or obligation over what we know is true. So today, we're going to talk about the hidden ways women lose themselves and how you can find your way back home. Because the beautiful thing is that what has been forgotten can always be remembered. Welcome to And She Remembers, the podcast for women who are ready to trust themselves again, reclaim their power, and remember that they have a voice, a choice, and an inner wisdom that was never meant to be silenced. I'm Sarah Manning, Oracle and Empowerment Coach, and thank you so much for joining me. So, what do I mean by losing yourself? Every time you put someone else's boundaries ahead of your own, likes or dislikes as more important than yours, dreams, goals, and desires ahead of you, someone else's needs and requirements needing more attention and energy than you are saying to yourself, Self, I know you have those needs, but I mean, come on, you can just suck it up for this time. But the truth is, when it becomes a habit, you never really give yourself the time to finally be present for you. And as a result, you disconnect from yourself. Ask yourself, have you ever stayed quiet when something inside of you wanted to speak? Have you ever convinced yourself that your needs could wait? Have you ever ignored what you knew was true because it would make someone else uncomfortable? Have you ever changed who you were to fit in? Ignored your intuition because it was inconvenient? Have you ever looked in the mirror and realized you weren't quite sure what you wanted anymore? If you can say yes to any or all of these examples, you have at one time or another disconnected from yourself. And that gets to stop today. Not tomorrow, not when things slow down, not when you've lost some weight. You know you want to start being true to yourself in ways that you have forgotten. It might seem like an odd concept, the act of disconnecting for yourself, as we think of disconnecting as something or someone that is no longer part of our life or that has been physically left behind. However, when you silence your truth, when you ignore how you truly feel, put yourself last, constantly pretending to be okay to keep the peace, you are sacrificing so much more than the moment. You are telling your heart, soul, and inner self that it can stay in the back corner and stay silent. Those moments of silence when tears are streaming down your face, leaving you wondering what is up, since you don't feel like there is anything wrong in that moment, those unexpected tears are your soul's way of showing you that something inside of you is longing to be acknowledged. I'm not saying to be selfish or to always put yourself first. When you stop listening to your heart, your inner voice, your desires, your intuition, you are putting yourself in a life that was never yours. Is it any wonder why so many women go through their daily lives not truly loving what is taking place in and around them? Another side of stepping back into alignment with your heart and soul needs to be considered. You have decided what is worth your time, energy, and attention. And there are some people that will simply never accept you for who you are, what you believe, and how you live your life. So, why are you allowing them to stay in yours? No, really. I have a lot of people that at one time or another I treasured being part of my life journey. Now, however, I have thanked them for the part they played in my life, in my lessons, in my discoveries, and I have lovingly let them go. Anytime I think of them, I do so with love, affection, but a complete understanding that my time with them is over and that is okay. Here is an example from my own life for you where I had to decide if I was worth more than the happiness of someone else. I had someone in my life who was a dear, dear friend. In fact, I considered them family. We spent many life events together, from moves, divorces, holidays, weddings, birthdays, you name it. We were there together. Some of my other friends and family didn't understand my friendship, but I knew this person's heart, and honestly, I focused on the happiness we shared over anything else. I never thought this person would ever leave my life, and I would fight to keep them with me. The bond was deep, soul level, where we would simply look at each other and know what we were thinking. However, a few years ago, events took place that shook my belief deeply, and I had to make a decision. See, many, many years before I met this person, I made a promise to my 16-year-old self that I would never have anyone in my life that caused me to walk on eggshells again. I wouldn't force my opinions on others, but I would also not ever again not share my beliefs or opinions to keep the peace. You can absolutely have a difference of opinion and remain respectful. I think friendships are truer and more heartfelt when you honor differences of beliefs or thoughts without forcing the other person to fall in line with you. You end up getting to know each other on such deeper levels. One of the things I loved so much about this friendship was the fact that we were always pushing each other to see things in a different light. We both have and had strong opinions about topics, social events, healing journeys, and how to expand our minds. It was an amazing way to chat, grow, laugh, and love the person for who they were. Well, the last time I saw this person, it was a complete disaster. So much so, my husband even said, no more. It took me a few more months to decide if this treasure is, if I wanted to keep this treasure in my life or whether it was over. Events took place that in anything that wasn't in line with my friend's beliefs, thoughts, or opinions was perceived as a personal attack on them. This is 100% not what I would ever want to portray or relay to any of my friends, but there is only so much you can do to try to convince someone that you're only having a discussion, not trying to convince them, not telling them they're wrong. Well, after the visit, I went radio silent. Trust me, this was felt on both sides as we normally talked all the time. However, I was still wrapping my head around what had taken place, what my part was in all the situations, and how I personally wanted to move forward. Well, remember that promise I made to myself that I would never walk on eggshells again? With this person, I decided my friendship was way more important than the promise to myself. I chose to reach out, share some truths, and see if there was a way to move forward. Sadly and heartbreakingly, the response was letting me know that there was truly no way forward. Our time together came to an end. This situation taught me a few things, but the most important is there is no one that is more important in my life than me. That is not a selfish or arrogant belief. I don't think I am better than anyone else, but I do know that no one is worth me betraying and losing myself. When I think of this person, I always send them love, honor the memories we had together, and I thank them in energy for the times we were together. I I also always send prayers of love and gratitude. I will always choose love, happiness, acceptance, and peace in my life over trying to convince someone that I am worthy, that I am not trying to start a fight, or that I am a good person. I will not fight for someone to stay in my life. I want friendships, people or whomever to want to be around me and vice versa. It can be painful to stand in your truth, but it doesn't have to stay painful. I cried. I allowed the heartbreak to be felt and I waffled back and forth for a very, very long time. But in the end, I kept coming back to always wanting to honor myself in every way possible. You will lose yourself if you repeatedly choose everyone else's truth over your own. If you have found you have a history of doing that, ask yourself, how has that worked for me so far? Another personal example of understanding boundaries without guilt or shame just took place a few days ago. I found myself in a situation where I really needed to and wanted to talk to a girlfriend, someone that I have known since I was 8 years old. I sent her a message and asked if she had space or energy to allow me to vent. Because we grew up in the same cult and experienced trauma in unique ways, we have a bond that others I don't think will ever fully understand. Her reply to me was, I really want to be there for you, Sarah, but at this time, I really have nothing extra to give. I didn't read her reply with anything other than love. In fact, I even replied to her saying, thank you for loving and respecting me enough to be honest and truthful. I would never want any of my friends to show up for me when they are on fumes. I don't want to become an energy, time, or emotional thief. I would know it was their choice, but I would feel horrible that they felt they couldn't have been truthful with me. Don't you want to give yourself the same grace you give others? If you feel the need to say no, but you force yourself to say yes, you are, in a way, telling yourself that you should be more, you could do more, and you need to push harder. Why? What in the end is worth you truly pushing yourself beyond exhaustion? Okay, maybe you don't feel exhausted, but you still don't want to do something. Why is saying no becoming such a shameful moment? Every unnecessary yes becomes a no to yourself. I am a strong woman. If you have listened to my other podcasts, you know that being quiet and in the shadows was safer for me for a long time. I learned over time, however, that if I stay in the shadows, what I am essentially saying to those that enjoy me in the corner is, you're right in treating me this way. One of my favorite realizations is that we teach people how to treat us. I will never accept anything other than respect. You don't have to like me, but you have to treat me with respect. And I will also stand up for those I dearly love. This was an interesting experience. As in line with standing up for those I love dearly, I also had to learn that it is not my job to save anyone. I can share my viewpoints, but in the end, I have to respect and support decisions that are made by others that work for their lives. I know that I have at times expressed my beliefs and opinions with force, and there's some in my life that were not used to a woman with such strong opinions. Honestly, even now, my ego is telling me I should be humbler about this truth and use words that are more shameful or that put me in my place. But in all the times I have stood my ground, honored my truths, I can honestly say that I didn't want to convince anyone that I was right and they were wrong. I just wouldn't allow their comfort to decide for me what I would allow and what I would reject. Ask yourself, who benefits when you make yourself smaller? In the end, worthiness is not a destination, it's a decision. Think about that. Where in your life are you waiting for the perfect moment, the right time, the right weight, more experience, or healing, having everything almost perfectly lined up? Man, I can't tell you how many times I have observed, followed, or enjoyed a woman's talk, mission, or business where I have thought to myself, I'll have success like that when I have lost more weight. Even saying that makes me roll my internal eyes at myself. Trust me, I don't just find inspiration from skinny or fit women. However, it was a way for my ego to justify why I wasn't yet where I wanted to be in my life and business. My ego has also tried to convince me that because I don't always follow my own advice or guidance, because I don't get it right all the time, who the hell am I to coach women? I don't expect others to be perfect. So why do I have to wait until I am? If that was ultimately true, I'd be waiting my lifetime, resulting in the world missing out on my experience, inner wisdom, and connection to spirit. And honestly, I don't think I'm the only woman doing that. Every time we convince ourselves we need to be more before we can begin, the world misses out on not only what we can bring to it, but your experiences, your gifts, your wisdom, and your voice. You don't ever have to wait to prove your worth. You are worthy now, in this moment, of allowing yourself to see the ultimate truth. You are worthy simply because you are. There is no man or woman in the sky that is one day going to come down and say to you, okay, you have experienced enough. You have done enough. You have learned enough. You can now go to the next level, or you can have your dreams now. The only being that is holding on to that belief is you. And until you start reminding yourself how silly, limiting, and untrue that is, you will continue to feel like your dreams and goals will always be out of reach. I have mentioned this in previous podcasts, but another funny little belief that has us waiting is the belief that you will go after your dreams when things settle down. You are going to be waiting your entire life if you choose to allow that to be your guideline. There is no time like the present. You can either start taking steps to achieve your goal, and by this time next year, you will revel in your steps, or you will simply keep seeking the ever elusive, made up, slowed down time in life. As I said before, worthiness is a decision, not a destination. So, what actually happens when you stop losing yourself to fear, doubt, or other people's beliefs and expectations? Honestly, the first thing is you start to get to know yourself deeply. This is such an amazing experience and life shift. I love this shift so much because I no longer have one person saying one thing to me and another person saying the complete opposite, resulting in confusion and leaving me feeling like I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. I don't wait for anyone to decide for me. I decide. As a result, I know myself very, very well. One thing I'm working on now about that is trusting that other people know me as well. My sister and I have a unique, close, but oddly distant in some ways relationship. We don't talk a lot, and you'd think that living about 15 minutes from each other, we'd see a lot more of each other. However, when we do connect, we are in a world of our own, and there is no one else around, except when my mom joins us. When it is the three of us, our husbands know to stay out of the way. They have even told us we have our own language, as when we are getting ready for family dinners, we just move like three different machines acting as one. But back to my point about my sister. There have been many times where something will happen, or I will say something, and I will eventually reach out to her and say, oh my God, I didn't mean it like that. I'm so sorry if I came across that way. Her reply to me each and every time is, Sarah, I know you. I know that it is not in your intention. You don't have to worry about it, and you didn't come across as bitchy. But in the end, it's always the same. Sarah, I know you. I love hearing that. Even now, as I repeat this, I feel it in my heart and I feel the lump in my throat because my sister, she knows me. And it is a gift when someone can say they truly know you. Not the version you presented, not the person they think you are, but you. This was a journey to get to as well. Coming from trauma, we all had to learn to see the other person for who they are, not for who they were in the past. That is something that will also happen when you start to honor yourself. You won't see people through the eyes of your pain, your experiences, or your beliefs. You will start to see people for who they are, and you will start to really know where you end and they begin. I can't tell you the privilege I feel when someone says to me, I know you. I want you to experience that as well. You will know when they know you, as you no longer have to explain, justify, and share yourself to the point of exhaustion. You also start to notice this really amazing, empowering shift of no longer being on edge. Imagine going to see someone when your shoulders are relaxed, you connect with your breath, and you start seeing joyful moments of memories, not fear, anxiety, or disconnection. The more you allow yourself to just be, the more at ease and comfortable you will be being the true version of you that the world deserves to see and experience. A few other incredible side effects of being you and allowing yourself to be you are confidence growing every day as you realize just how safe it is to be you. Creating and sharing your boundaries no longer feels selfish, rather freeing. Your intuition becomes clearer and stronger as you start to trust it on so many different areas of your life. Your peace increases as you no longer have to change who you are depending on who you are with. Relationships shift as those around you start to understand and love you for who you are. And self respect soars as you start to actually feel and connect with the feeling of worthiness. Every time you choose yourself, you strengthen your relationship with yourself. Trust me, the more you get to know you, the more others will discover the amazing you as well. So, here are some empowering questions to ask yourself. Where am I saying yes when I mean no? Where am I ignoring my own truth for others' comfort? What part of myself have I been silencing? What would change if I trusted myself more? Where am I settling in my life? It is time to honor your opinion. Stop taking a back seat to your own life. And trust me, those that love you for you will stay. Anyone that falls to the side, honor the grief, but remember, they didn't appreciate you in the first place. They liked the version of you that worked for them. If you take one thing from this episode, let it be this: losing yourself rarely happens in one big moment. It happens in the small choices you make every day when you ignore your truths, silence your voice, and stay small in ways based on other people's comforts. Start noticing these moments and give yourself the gift of choosing differently. Because every time you choose yourself, you can reconnect with your power and truth unapologetically. The woman you're becoming doesn't need to lose herself to be loved. She simply needs to remember that her voice matters too. Until next time, trust your intuition, listen to your inner voice, and remember who you truly are. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with those that you feel can use a reminder of how powerful they truly are in their own lives. And I'd love to hear from you. Please leave me a review and I will get back to you. If you're looking for more information on who I am, my services, and what I do for women, feel free to visit my website at www.sarah with an H, so SARAHS Manning.com. I love hearing from those that are empowering their own lives with choices that they have made through their own intuitive connection. Live in love, love and light, and thank you again.